Imagine a liquid so powerful, it could reshape nations, ignite revolutions, and dictate the fate of empires. For Iran, that liquid was oil. From a hidden resource to a global commodity, its discovery didn't just change Iran's economy. It fundamentally rewrote its entire history. For millennia, Persia, modern-day Iran, was a land of ancient empires and rich cultural heritage. But in the early 20th century, a new kind of treasure was unearthed beneath its sands, one that would thrust it onto the global stage and into a century of geopolitical turmoil. For a mere £20,000 and a promise of 16% of future profits, D'Arcy gained exclusive rights to prospect for oil across most of Persia for 60 years. This is the story of how oil transformed Iran from its initial discovery to the seismic shifts of revolution. Our story begins in 1901 when Muazzar ud-Din Shah, the Qajar ruler of Persia, granted a vast concession to a wealthy Englishman named William Knox D'Arcy. After World War II, Iranian nationalists, fueled by a desire for greater sovereignty and economic benefit, began to demand control over their own oil. It was a gamble. For years, D'Arcy's geologist, George Bernard Reynolds, faced brutal conditions, extreme heat, disease, and challenging terrain. Soon after, Mosaddegh became prime minister, riding a wave of popular support. His goal was clear: Iran's oil belonged to Iran. This stark imbalance ignited a powerful movement for nationalization, led by the charismatic Dr. Mohammad Mosaddegh. Britain, unable to resolve the issue unilaterally, turned to the U.S. for help. They feared that nationalization would set a dangerous precedent for other, resource-rich nations, and that Mossadegh's government might lean towards communism. His fortune dwindled, and the venture was on the brink of collapse. The benefits were unevenly distributed, alienating traditional landowning classes, rural peasants, and powerful Muslim clergy. High government spending and a boom in oil prices led to rampant inflation, stagnating the buying power and standard of living for many Iranians. This economic discontent, combined with increasing socio-political repression, set the stage for another monumental shift. The Shah's authoritarian rule and suppression of political freedoms intensified social tensions. Strikes began in Iran's crucial oil fields in the autumn of 1978, and by January 1979, crude oil production plummeted by 4.8 million barrels per day, a staggering 7% of world production at the time. In 1963, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi launched what he called the White Revolution. This aggressive series of reforms aimed to rapidly transform Iran from a traditional agrarian society into a modern, industrialized, and secular state. The British government quickly recognized the strategic importance of this new resource. Cities grew rapidly, and there was a push towards westernization, including significant advancements in women's rights and literacy. With the Royal Navy shifting from coal to oil for its ships, a fuel that offered greater energy density and longer range, securing a reliable supply became a national imperative. This covert operation led to Mossadegh's overthrow and imprisonment, restoring the pro-Western Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, to absolute power. It brought immense wealth, fueled ambitious modernization, but also became a flashpoint for national pride, foreign intervention, and internal conflict. But then on May 26, 1908, at Masjid Saliman, oil erupted from the ground, gushing 50 feet into the air. The first major oil strike in the Middle East had been made. This discovery led to the formation of the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, or APOC, in 1909. But this wasn't just a commercial venture. In 1913, just before World War I, Winston Churchill, then First Lord of the Admiralty, negotiated a deal. In exchange for secure oil supplies, the British government injected capital into APEC, acquiring a controlling interest. This move effectively gave Britain control over Persia's vast oil reserves, making the region of tremendous strategic importance for decades to come. The Abadan refinery, built by APEC, would become the largest oil refinery in the world for its first 50 years. Decades of foreign control over Iran's most valuable resource bred deep resentment. The Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, as a POC was renamed, was making immense profits. WAIL. Iran received a mere 16%, often even less. In March 1951, the Iranian parliament, the Majlis, overwhelmingly passed a bill to nationalize the oil industry. This bold move, however, was met with fierce opposition from Britain and the United States. The situation escalated into a full-blown crisis. In 1953, the British and American governments orchestrated a coup d'etat known as Operation Ajax. The coup reversed the nationalization policies and had profound, lasting implications, fueling anti-imperialist sentiment and becoming a rallying cry in future anti-US protests, shaping Iran's political dynamics for decades to come. With the Shah restored to power and oil revenues flowing once more, Iran embarked on an ambitious modernization program. Oil revenue was the engine of this transformation. Per capita income skyrocketed, and massive state funding poured into industrial development projects. However, this rapid, top-down modernization came at a cost. By the 1970s, despite outward economic growth, world monetary instability and fluctuations in oil consumption began to threaten Iran's economy. A simmering discontent finally erupted in the late 1970s. This dramatic loss of supply, coupled with panic buying from crude oil, importers sparked the world's second major oil shock in 5 years. The revolution also fundamentally reshaped global oil markets. Before the crisis, most oil was sold under long-term contracts at fixed prices. But as buyers scrambled for scarce supply, the role of the spot market, where oil is bought and sold for immediate delivery, exploded. This shift to spot trading really lit a fire under the market, to more volatile prices and a new era of global oil trading. In the long term, the Iranian Revolution spurred other oil-producing nations outside of OPEC to invest heavily in exploration and production, ultimately diversifying global supply and reducing reliance on a single region. From the initial British concession to the revolutionary oil shocks, oil has been inextricably linked to Iran's destiny. The story of oil in Iran is a powerful reminder of how a single resource can profoundly shape a nation's sovereignty, economy, and political identity, leaving an indelible mark on its history. What do you think is the most significant impact oil had on Iran? Let us know in the comments below.